This is the first of 3 videos of my trip to Carnarvon Gorge at the end of August 2020 with my brother Mal. We spent the first night in Warrumbah on our way to Carnarvon, but in hindsight we probably should have just left Brisbane earlier and gone all the way to Carnarvon Gorge. We booked a campsite at Takarakka. That would seem to be the best spot to give us good access to Carnarvon and with some really good facilities. Takarakka is a fairly busy campsite, pretty popular with caravans and camper vans, not so much for tents and swags, but they do cater for everybody. So the first thing obviously was to check in. They did have a contactless point set up for everybody to check in, and then we headed to our designated site and set up camp. Facilities here are really good. Very clean showers and toilets with easy walking distance from your site. They also have cabins available for those just travelling in their vehicle. So by the time we finished setting up, it was probably around 2:30 p.m. and that afternoon we had decided we were going to go and check out the Mickey's Creek walk. Mickey's Creek is one of these shorter walks, and it is situated just outside the main area. It's about a 3 kilometre return walk, pretty easy to do, it's not too hilly, and by that time of the afternoon that we were through there, it was all pretty much in shade. It's a pretty interesting walk, there's lots of different vegetation all the way through there. Once you get a fair way in, the track will split to the left and right, which is the Warrumbah Creek Gorge. I'd say if you're running a bit short on time, definitely take the right hand side of the track. We did continue straight ahead along the Mickey's Creek Gorge, and eventually you'll find a sign which says "Form Track Ends Here." I'd highly recommend on both sections of this walk, the Warrumbah and the Mickey's Creek, to continue past that sign. You will have to scramble a little bit more here and clamber up and down the rocks depending on how far you want to go, because basically you're just following the creek bed along. Once we got as far as we could go on Mickey's Creek Gorge, we turned around and headed back to the junction and took the right hand track to the Warrumbah Gorge. This is definitely the prettier section, and you get a much more defined gorge. It's quite tall and narrow and much more picturesque. So it would have been after 4 p.m. by the time we got into this section, and it was getting pretty dark. I was shooting images on the Fuji X-T4 with the 10 to 24mm lens, and it was so dark I was shooting at 6400 ISO or even higher at times, just to be able to get a fast enough shutter speed at f4. So shooting around 80th of a second at f4 and between 6400 and sometimes up to even 10,000 ISO. Once I found a composition that I really liked, I decided to stop being lazy and pulled the tripod out. That allowed me to shoot at 400 ISO for around a 1 second exposure. And that gave me a much cleaner image, especially in the shadow areas. As we walked out, we could see that the sun was getting a bit lower in the sky and creating a nice warm light against the gorge wall, and that was being reflected in the creek below. This is something that Carnarvon Gorge is quite famous for, and it's something that always creates a really nice image. We had just enough daylight left to go and check out the rock pool walk, which is only a little bit further down the road from Mickey's Creek, and again it's a really short walk. It's a beautiful section of the creek with a rather magnificent rock sitting in the water, creating some beautiful reflections. Anywhere in Carnarvon Gorge there's likely to be lots of wildlife around, so make sure you keep your eyes and your ears open, and you might just find a little guy like this hiding in the reeds. Make sure you keep walking past the main rock pool and you'll find another section a little bit further down the creek with some more beautiful reflections. By this time we were starting to run out of light, so it was time to head back to camp, cook up some dinner and get an early night, because the next day we had a big walk ahead of us.